Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take your curiosity, feed it a stack of expertly curated sources, and give you the essential knowledge shortcut you need.
Today, we are tackling a massive, a really persistent challenge for so many people.
Absolutely. How do you achieve true, confident English-speaking fluency when you just don't have native speakers around?
Or maybe you do, but you don't have the time. Or, frankly, maybe you're just an introvert who prefers structured, independent study on your own schedule.
It's the great paradox of language learning, isn't it? Everyone agrees speaking is the end goal.
But getting that quality, low-pressure, real-time conversation practice, that's often the biggest hurdle in the world.
Well, our sources today tackle this head-on, and they deliver a really powerful message.
A very powerful one. The message is this: you can master fluent English speech without talking to anyone else. It's all about strategic solo practice.
That is a compelling claim, and it's exactly what our mission is today. We are going to unpack a comprehensive, science-backed guide for building those necessary neural pathways.
The pathways for confident, fluent speech.
And it's all tailored specifically for you, the self-directed learner.
Yeah.
This isn't about, just making do. This is about optimizing the learning process entirely on your own terms.
And here's the initial, I think the most foundational insight you need to hold on to from the get-go.
Okay.
Solo practice is not just a second-rate substitute for a real conversation.
Right.
It is often the environment where the majority of deep, technical, foundational language improvement actually happens.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It is. Think of a competitive athlete or a concert musician.
Mm-hmm.
The game or the performance is the goal, of course. But the technical mastery, the scales, the specific skill drills, muscle memory, all of that is forged during focused individual practice.
Right, where they're free from judgment or the time constraints of playing with others.
Exactly. That's the zone where the real work gets done.
Okay, let's unpack that core idea, because I think for a lot of people it sounds really counterintuitive. Language is social.
Mm-hmm.
So why does talking to myself work as well as, or as you're suggesting, maybe even better than talking to a person?
It all comes down to the fact that the essential mechanism of improvement is internal.
Okay.
Speaking, regardless of who's listening, requires an immense amount of cognitive effort. I mean, if you try to map it out, your brain is performing these incredibly complex, simultaneous operations every single time you open your mouth.
That's like juggling.
It's exactly like trying to juggle 5 tennis balls at once.
So what are those 5 balls? Lay them out for us.
Okay, so ball number 1 is vocabulary retrieval, finding the right word and finding it quickly.
Right.
Ball number 2 is grammar application, making sure your tense is right, the sentence structure is correct.
Mm.
Ball number 3, sentence construction, putting all those words and rules together into a coherent phrase that actually makes sense.
And the 4th?
The 4th is the physical part. Vocal coordination, getting your mouth, your tongue, your throat to physically produce the sound you intend to make.
And the 5th one? You said this is maybe the most critical one for solo practice.
It is. It's continuous monitoring and self-adjustment. It's that little voice in your head that's listening to what's coming out of your mouth in real time and making tiny corrections.
So when I'm, say, articulating a sentence, even if it's just whispered in the shower, I'm strengthening all those neural links at the same time.
Precisely. That entire complex circuit strengthens with repetition. And the critical thing to understand is that the strengthening happens regardless of whether an external human is listening.
It's just about reps.
It's all about reps. The more often you activate those circuits, the faster, smoother, and more automatic they become. You are literally building muscle memory for both your vocal apparatus and your brain's language processing centers.
And if the goal here is fluency, which we define as speed and accuracy, this self-directed model gives us a massive advantage.
A huge one.
Control.
Control is the definitive differentiator. It's the secret sauce of solo study. Practicing alone gives you, the learner, complete and instantaneous control.
Over what, specifically?
Over the pace, the difficulty level, the topics, everything. If you realize you struggle with articulating the R sound, you can sit there and repeat words with R in them 50 times until that muscle memory locks in.
You can't really do that in a conversation. It would be awkward.
Incredibly awkward. Or imagine you seize up trying to use the present perfect continuous tense. Alone, you can just pause, you can troubleshoot the grammar, you can look it up without that crushing anxiety of holding up a conversation partner who's waiting for you to speak.
You and only you set the rules and the intensity of the drill.
Exactly. It's a low-stakes environment, a training ground.
So you build the foundation there so that when you do get into a real conversation, you don't freeze up.
That's the idea. But as our sources really emphasize, just randomly talking to yourself isn't quite enough. You have to be strategic. You need to structure the environment.
Okay, so let's get into that. Creating an immersive English-speaking environment.
Absolutely. The first strategic step is just that. And for this to work, consistency is everything.
So what does that look like?
We advise designating a specific, consistent practice space. And this can be really minimal. It could be a particular chair in your living room, a corner of your kitchen table, or your dedicated home office desk.
And the point of having a physical space isn't just about comfort, is it? It's psychological.
It's entirely psychological. It's about conditioning the brain. When you consistently use the same spot for practice, your brain quickly learns to associate that location with focused English learning.
It's like a trigger.
It is a trigger. You walk to the English chair and your brain instantly starts to shift into target language mode. It minimizes the friction, that mental energy it takes to get started with a complex practice like shadowing or building a monologue.
Okay, so beyond the physical space, we have to talk about digital immersion. This is one area where modern life, for once, actually makes language learning easier.
Oh, massively easier. The advice is simple. Switch all of your technical interfaces to English.
All of them.
All of them. Your phone, your laptop's operating system, your social media settings, every app you use regularly.
Why is that so powerful? It seems like such a small thing.
It's subtle, but it's profoundly powerful because it forces your brain to interact with essential, necessary information in English. It constantly reinforces context-specific vocabulary. You stop mentally translating the word for inbox from your native language.
You just start using the word inbox because that's what's on the screen.
Exactly. English becomes the unavoidable default setting for your daily digital life.
And going back to basics, I love this tip from the sources. It's so simple, so old school. Physical immersion with sticky notes.
That classic technique endures for one reason. It works. It works by connecting vocabulary directly to immediate, tangible physical surroundings.
So you just label everything.
Label the high-frequency objects around your home with English sticky notes. This gives you constant ambient exposure to words related to your daily reality. The kettle, the couch, the light switch. You are retraining your brain to label its physical world in English first.
It cements that visual to word link.
Hey.
Instantly. Now, let's talk about the soundscape. This one was interesting. Why is passive background audio so important for improving my speaking skills?
The audio soundscape is crucial for what you could call normalizing the language's internal clock.
Its internal clock.
Yeah, it's rhythm. You should play English content, podcasts, audiobooks, music, the radio throughout the day in the background. The primary goal is creating an English-rich acoustic environment.
So I'm not even trying to understand everything.
Not at all. The point is to normalize the language's rhythm, its intonation, its natural speech patterns. Your ear becomes intimately attuned to the melody of English. And that's vital for later, more active techniques like shadowing. You're just absorbing the linguistic rhythm passively.
So my ears is being trained to anticipate how English should sound, even when I'm not actively listening.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And finally, to maintain momentum with all of this, organization has to be a priority.
Oh, absolutely. You have to reduce the friction of getting started. This means curating your resources.
What does that look like in practice?
The learner should create a dedicated speaking playlist, or maybe a folder on their computer. This might be a curated collection of TED Talks you find engaging, or specific YouTube channels known for clear speech, or transcribed scenes from movies you love.
And the point is to avoid decision fatigue.
Exactly. Having this pre-vetted, curated list ensures practice consistency by minimizing the time you waste searching for suitable material. You maximize the actual practice minutes, and you eliminate that common barrier of just not knowing where to start.
Okay, we've conditioned the environment, the brain is primed and ready to learn. Now let's get into the two core mechanics of speaking practice. This is where it gets really strategic. The technique called shadowing. Our sources call it a gold standard, something used by professional simultaneous interpreters. What is this technique exactly, and what makes it such a secret weapon for fluency?
Shadowing is it's elegantly simple in concept, but it can be brutally effective in practice.
Okay.
You listen to a native speaker and you repeat what they say in real time, matching their delivery as closely as you possibly can.
So it's not just repeating the words.
Not at all. The power is in the depth of the mimicry. You are attempting to match their pronunciation, their rhythm, their inflection, their pitch. even the emotional tone of their voice.
You're trying to become their echo.
A perfect description. You're trying to become the speaker's echo, staying just a split second behind them. And here's the key. You're not repeating a finished phrase. You're speaking with them.
It sounds like intense physical training, not just for the brain's processing speed, but for the vocal muscles themselves.
It is.
Let's walk through the execution strategy step by step, because the sources detail a very clear 4-part path for this.
It starts with selection. The criteria are important. The sources advise starting with material that's slightly below your current comprehension level.
Wait, below my level? That feels counterintuitive. Shouldn't I be challenging myself?
For comprehension, yes, but not for shadowing. If you are an intermediate learner, you should choose content you understand easily, maybe pre-intermediate level.
Why?
Because you want to focus purely on the delivery, the how you speak, without struggling to understand the meaning, what is being said. The cognitive load should be on mimicry, not comprehension.
Okay, that makes sense. So I should pick clear audio, like TED Talks, which also have transcripts.
TED Talks are perfect for this. So step 1 is just passive listening.
Just listening.
Just listening. The first time through, it's for comprehension, yes, but more importantly, you're noticing the speaker's vocal characteristics. You're observing what linguists call the suprasegmental features.
Okay, hold on. We need to pause there. That's a technical term. For our listeners who aren't deep into linguistics, what exactly are suprasegmental features?
That's an excellent question. It's the most important concept for sounding natural. Suprasegmental features are the elements of speech that exist above the individual sounds or phonemes.
So not the vowels and consonants.
No. Think of them as the musicality of the language. It's the rhythm, the stress you place on certain words or syllables, and the intonation, which is the pitch or the melody of your voice as you speak.
So a rising pitch at the end of a sentence to make it a question.
That's a classic example of intonation. English uses these features heavily to convey meaning, and they contribute more to sounding natural than having perfect individual vowel sounds. So in this first listen, you are essentially charting the speaker's melody.
Got it. So step 2 involves the transcript. We're making that connection explicit now.
Yes. On the second listen, you read along with the transcript. This is where you connect the written word to the actual spoken sound.
What does that reveal?
It reveals all the things you miss with your ear alone. Things like connected speech patterns, how did you becomes did ya, or subtle stress changes. It's the diagnostic phase of the process.
And then the critical phase, the shadow itself.
This is step 3. You play the audio again, and you speak simultaneously with the speaker. You are the echo, staying just a fraction of a second behind.
And you said the key here is no transcript.
No transcript. The crucial instruction here is that your reliance must be purely on your ear. You have to train your auditory processing and your vocal coordination at the same time, forcing your brain to process and reproduce sound in real time.
I can just imagine the initial feeling of this. It must be incredibly awkward and frustrating.
It is, and it's so important to acknowledge that initial awkwardness. It is completely normal.
Your tongue gets tied.
Your tongue will get tied, you'll stumble over words. Speaking English requires training your mouth muscles to form unfamiliar sounds and shift between them very quickly. It's a physical challenge, like learning a complex dance move. You only get better through that initial struggle.
So once the basic mimicry feels a bit more comfortable, how do you take this technique to an advanced level?
The advanced version is all about building your auditory working memory.
How does that work?
You listen to a longer segment, a full sentence, or maybe two. You pause the audio, and then you immediately repeat the entire segment from memory.
But not just the words.
Never just the words. You have to maintain the speaker's original style, their rhythm, their intonation. You are forcing your brain to hold complex auditory data and then reproduce it perfectly.
Okay, but if I'm practicing this alone, how do I self-assess? How do I know I'm getting better and not just cementing bad habits?
That's where the power of your digital environment comes back in. You absolutely must record yourself during these sessions. It's non-negotiable.
And then you listen back.
You listen to your recording and you compare it directly to the original audio, often sentence by sentence. This comparison is your diagnostic tool. It will spotlight the specific areas that need improvement, where your rhythm broke, where your pitch dropped unexpectedly, or which individual sounds were unclear.
So without that comparison, I'm just flying blind.
You risk practicing your errors into permanence. The recording and review is the self-correction loop that makes this technique so powerful.
And what about the time commitment? Does this take hours?
No, and that's the beauty of it. The mandate is short, but consistent. Practice shadowing for 15 to 20 minutes every single day. Consistency, even in small doses, trains the complex mechanisms of speech far more effectively than occasional grueling marathon sessions.
Okay, so shadowing trains mimicry and delivery. Now let's shift gears to generating truly spontaneous speech. This, according to the sources, is the most underrated solo technique of all. Turning your daily life into speaking practice through self-talk and narration.
This method is so powerful because it transforms mundane, unavoidable activities, brushing your teeth, making coffee, your commute, into potent speaking opportunities.
It's like you're creating a personal, continuous audio commentary track for your own life.
Precisely. And it links language structures directly to your immediate physical experience, which minimizes the search time for abstract vocabulary.
So where do you start?
You start with basic, concrete narration. Describe your actions aloud as you do them. I'm waking up now, I need to stretch my back. Or, I am brewing the coffee and I see the steam rising from the mug.
So the relevance is immediate.
It's immediate, which is why it builds fluency so rapidly. You're using vocabulary that is urgently needed in that moment, and it minimizes the gap between thought and articulation.
And then from there, we expand this into more descriptive observational language.
Yes, you progress to describing your immediate environment aloud. And don't just list objects, describe them. Use adjectives, use relative clauses.
Give me an example.
So instead of there's a cup on the table, you'd say there is a blue cup, slightly chipped, sitting on the polished wooden table.
Okay.
The sunlight is streaming powerfully through the window, highlighting the dust motes floating in the air. This forces the spontaneous use of descriptive vocabulary and more complex sentence construction based on what you're seeing in real time.
That then quickly moves us into explaining internal thoughts and emotions. This feels like the bridge to true internalized dialogue.
It's a significant leap and a crucial one. Explaining your thoughts and feelings aloud requires you to link your internal cognitive and emotional states directly to English structures.
So something like,
I'm feeling slightly distracted this morning because I'm worried about my presentation. I hope I remembered to pack all my notes. This is how you achieve true internalized thought in the language, by practicing how to express nuance and self-reflection in English.
the sources gave some fantastic structured scenarios to push this, like taking on the role of a show host.
Role-playing scenarios are excellent because they force you to use specific language registers.
Right.
Take the cooking show host role. You have to explain a recipe step by step. This requires precise sequencing language first, next, subsequently, and accurate action verbs. I'm going to dice the garlic using a sharp knife. Now I hear the oil sizzling, which means the pan is hot enough to add the vegetables.
Or the sports commentator role.
Right. The sports commentator role demands rapid, dynamic, action-oriented language. You're constantly using the present continuous tense and quick adjectives to capture movement. It's basically training for quick thinking under verbal pressure.
And the benefit of all this continuous flow, whether it's simple narration or a complex role play, is huge.
It's massive. You get continuous speech training without pausing to search for words. You get simultaneous grammar construction, and you get immediate, necessity-driven vocabulary acquisition.
What do you mean by necessity-driven?
If you need a word to describe the color of the cloud you see outside, you look it up, you use it instantly, and that word sticks because you needed it in that real moment.
That makes perfect sense. But what about learners who feel self-conscious? You know, maybe they live with family or roommates and can't just be talking to themselves all day.
It's a common concern, and the research notes that even if you can't produce audible sound, the practice still provides a lot of value. You can articulate the words silently. Just form them with your mouth, your tongue, and your jaw muscles without pushing air through. This still trains the physical speaking muscles and helps develop the articulation agility needed for faster speech, all while maintaining complete privacy. It still activates the motor planning for speech in the brain.
Okay, moving into our third section, structured practice. The ultimate goal is still that spontaneous fluency, but the most effective path there runs through highly organized, repeatable preparation.
Exactly. This is where working with scripts and dialogues becomes invaluable.
Why are scripts so important?
Scripts act as essential training wheels. They provide a framework. They give you the confidence to master complex linguistic structures, things like specific politeness protocols, formal expressions, or conditional clauses, in a safe environment before you're forced to improvise in the real world.
And in terms of material selection, what works best here?
You should focus on materials that are highly relevant to situations you anticipate or desire to be in.
So practical stuff.
Very practical. Use scripts detailing job interviews, travel interactions, maybe customer service calls, or even just advanced small talk. You can find these on dedicated language websites, or you can transcribe very specific scenes from movies or TV shows.
Like a scene where a character is ordering a specific meal at a restaurant?
Exactly, something you might actually need to do.
Let's detail the practice methodology for using these scripts. It always starts with absolute comprehension, right?
Always. Step 1. Silent reading and lookup. You have to ensure you have 100% comprehension of every word and phrase. Note the pronunciation details for any tricky words.
Then what?
Step 2, slow, deliberate reading aloud. Here, you're focusing exclusively on accuracy and clarity, not speed. We're prioritizing perfect articulation and getting the rhythm right before we move on to performance.
And then you say the fun begins with character performance.
This is a critical step because it moves language from being an academic structure to being a tool for emotional communication.
So if it's a dialogue, I play both parts.
You must perform both roles. Actively switch your tone, your pitch, your attitude to embody the different personas. This technique, which is used by drama students, helps you internalize not just the words, but the emotional context. You learn how a friendly request sounds different from an angry demand.
Embodying the character aids contextual understanding.
Massively.
So if I'm doing this alone, how do I know if my performance is any good?
Again, you record and you critically review the performance. You have to ask yourself, does my speech sound dynamic or is it just robotic recitation? Are my pauses natural?
And the intonation.
Most importantly, is the intonation correct? We talked about suprasegmental's intonation is key here. Recording verifies that the pitch and melody of your speech actually match the intended meaning. Is your rising pitch making a statement sound like a genuine question? Or is it just a random melody shift?
And to prevent the script from becoming just mechanical memorization, we need to add variation in the delivery.
Flexibility is built through variation. Practice the exact same script faster than slower. Then, perform it while trying to convey entirely different emotions.
How would that work?
Deliver a neutral script with an angry tone, or a sad tone, or a joyful tone. This trains your muscle memory to adapt quickly to different emotional and social demands without losing the structural integrity of the English phrases you've learned.
And finally, the highest level of script work. Personalization, making it for your real life.
Customization is vital for high-stakes events. You should create custom scripts for specific future real-life events.
Like a business presentation.
A business presentation, rehearsing a product pitch, or practicing complex instructions for your airport check-in. By writing and performing your own personalized scripts, you ensure the vocabulary and the structures are immediately applicable to your reality.
That brings us perfectly to the pronunciation foundation. The expert consensus in our sources is crystal clear on this. Perfect grammar means absolutely nothing if poor pronunciation is impeding communication.
It's the foundational layer of intelligibility. You could have a 10,000-word vocabulary, but if listeners are frequently asking you to repeat yourself, your focus has to shift immediately to clarity.
But the good news is that pronunciation, unlike some tricky grammar, is highly trainable through focused solo methods.
Very trainable.
So we start by understanding the building blocks, the actual sounds of English.
Yes. English has about 44 distinct sounds, which we call phonemes. The first job of the learner is to identify the specific phones that are difficult for them, usually because they don't exist in their native language.
What are some common examples?
Common ones are the difference between the V and W sounds, the R versus all sounds, or mastering the two distinct the sounds, the voiced one in this and the unvoiced one in think.
So how do we isolate and drill those specific tricky sounds to make sure we're not confusing our listener?
By using what are called minimal pairs.
Okay.
These are pairs of words that differ by only one single sound, and they're specifically designed to train both your ear and your mouth to recognize that tiny difference.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Think of ship versus sheep, or bad versus bed, or right versus light.
I see. The one sound changes the entire meaning.
Exactly. The learner has to record themselves saying these pairs and then verify that they can consistently produce and hear the distinct sound change that alters the word's meaning.
And if a learner is struggling to even produce the sound, the mirror technique can help demystify the physical action.
The mirror technique is crucial for physical feedback. It lets you visually confirm the correct mouth, tongue, and lip position for those difficult sounds. You can compare your own mouth to videos of native speakers.
So for the sound, for example.
For the sound, you need to literally see that your tongue is slightly protruding between your teeth. That visual confirmation speeds up the motor learning process tremendously.
Then we have the high-speed training, the verbal calisthenics tongue twisters.
Tongue twisters are essential. They build articulation and speed, and they smooth the transition between tricky sounds that are close together.
So she sells seashells by the seashore.
A classic. And you start slowly, ensuring absolute clarity, and you only gradually increase the speed as that clarity allows. They build the physical agility you need for fluent, fast, and natural-sounding speech.
But here's the major insight, the one that should probably be highlighted in bold. Our sources stress that individual phones actually aren't the biggest factor in intelligibility.
No, they're not.
It's the musicality, the rhythm, the stress patterns.
This is one of the most counterintuitive and high-impact takeaways for any learner. The single biggest boost you can give to your intelligibility is mastering rhythm and stress.
Why is that?
Because English is what we call a stress-timed language. We rely on syllable and word stress to convey meaning and identify words. If you stress the wrong syllable, even if every sound is perfect, you can make the word completely unrecognizable to a native speaker.
Can you give us a concrete example of how that stress shift operates in practice?
Of course. Think about the word family around photography.
Okay.
The noun is pronounced with the stress on the first syllable, pho to graph. The field of study is pronounced with the stress on the second syllable, photography. And the adjective shifts the stress to the third syllable, photographic.
Wow. The location of the stress completely changes the word and how it sounds.
Completely. If you say photographic, you sound awkward, and listeners will struggle to identify the word instantly. You have to train your ear and your mouth to emphasize the correct syllables automatically.
That's a fascinating deep dive into how meaning is carried by sound placement. And speaking of rapid speech, we have to address connected speech.
Yes. Connected speech covers all the natural phonological processes that happen when we speak quickly and fluently. This is why native speech can sometimes sound like a blur to learners.
So what are those processes?
They include linking sounds together, reducing sounds, and modifying sounds between words. For instance, want to naturally reduces down to wanna, and did you often becomes did ya. Practicing these natural reductions is essential.
Why is practicing that important if it kind of feels like sloppy speech?
Because it accomplishes two critical things. First, it makes your own speech sound more authentic and natural, which bridges the gap between textbook English and real English.
And the second thing?
Second, and maybe more importantly, it vastly improves your comprehension of native speakers. If you are listening for the perfect, isolated articulation of every single word, you will miss 50% of what's said in a fast conversation. Training the reductions is crucial for both your output and your input.
Okay, so once we have the building blocks and the ability to mimic rhythm, we need to build fluency stamina. Fluency isn't just speaking well, it's the ability to speak continuously. And monologues are the ideal vehicle for this.
Absolutely. Fluency is defined as the ability to speak smoothly and continuously without excessive pauses, filler words, or hesitation. Monologues are necessary training grounds because they require extended, self-propelled speech generation. They build your linguistic stamina.
So how do we structure this stamina training?
Through timed monologues. You choose a familiar, low-stress topic, your favorite hobby, your last vacation, a personal goal, and you speak for a set time. You start at maybe 1 minute and you don't stop.
The only goal is continuous output.
The single goal is continuous output, not perfection. You have to time yourself strictly. If you pause too long, you stop. You take a breath and you try again, aiming to beat your previous continuous time.
Wow.
Then you progressively extend the duration, 1 minute, 2, 3, and eventually 5 minutes straight.
And if a learner struggles to just generate continuous content, if they run out of things to say,
That's where visual aids come in. Picture description is a phenomenal way to force immediate descriptive language.
how does that work?
You find a complex photograph or an illustration, and you describe everything you see in detail: colors, shapes, textures, the relative positions of objects.
And then you go deeper.
After describing the visual details, you analyze deeper. You speculate on what the people in the picture are thinking. You describe what might have happened just before or what might happen just after the photo was taken. This forces the transition from simple labeling to complex narrative building.
I really like the structure of the 3-minute expert concept from the sources.
That technique is powerful because it demands genuine organization and coherent thought under pressure.
So what do I do?
The learner has to explain a concept they know well, or teach a skill or recipe, the basic rules of a sport, the plot of a book, how a specific app on their phone works for exactly 3 minutes.
And teaching forces clarity.
Teaching forces clarity, logical sequencing, and the structured use of transition words. All of those are necessary components of advanced fluency.
And to train for the inherent unpredictability of a real conversation.
For that, you use impromptu challenges. Random word generators, or physical items like story cubes, force the creation of spontaneous narratives. You get a random word, and you must immediately begin speaking about it, creating connections, analogies, and narrative on the fly. This mimics that chaotic, immediate need to respond when someone asks you an unexpected question.
Now let's go back to our crucial concept. If I'm speaking for 3 minutes straight, I'm going to make mistakes. How do I prevent those mistakes from becoming ingrained? The self-correction loop has to be the engine of independent growth.
It absolutely is. The self-correction loop is the most important habit for any solo learner. You must record these monologues.
And listen back when?
You listen back the next day.
Why the next day?
Because that distance allows you to listen with a critical analytical ear rather than the impulsive self-conscious ear you use during the heat of spontaneous speech. You will identify errors you missed in the moment, grammar flaws, awkward word choices, or filler words you overused.
And then you make a note of them.
You make notes, and you consciously work on those specific issues in your next monologue session. Without this loop, you are simply practicing speaking. You're not practicing improvement.
We've covered the mechanics, the physical training, the stamina. Now we move to the final, and I think the most rewarding stage, the mental leap. True fluency isn't just about output, it's about actually thinking in English. It's about moving beyond that cumbersome process of translating everything from your native language.
This is the ultimate goal, the point of complete internalization. And the simplest method to start is by designating specific, mandatory times for what we'll call conscious English time.
So like a scheduled appointment.
Exactly. During your morning routine, your coffee break, your commute, you commit to thinking exclusively in the target language.
But the thoughts in my native language are so automatic. What happens when I catch myself reverting to my mother tongue?
You have to actively interrupt that translation loop. You catch the thought and you restate it in English immediately and consciously. You are literally training your brain to choose the English pathway first.
And the English Thought Journal can help with this.
The journal supports this habit immensely. You just write down spontaneous thoughts, a stream of consciousness, directly in English. It forces original construction of ideas rather than simply translating thoughts you already had.
So it's about running a constant mental commentary throughout the day, ensuring English is the language of continuous cognitive engagement.
Exactly. Running an internal description of your observations and your experiences. You're commenting on the architecture you see, you're analyzing the traffic situation, you're evaluating the menu at a restaurant, all in English. This ensures English is used for constant real-world interpretation, not just for your dedicated study time.
And the association method helps solidify vocabulary without needing that dangerous translation bridge.
Yes. When you learn a new vocabulary word, you must look up the English definition and immediately create multiple example sentences using it. You are intentionally bypassing your native language entirely.
Building a direct English-to-English association network in the brain.
That's a great way to put it. For instance, if you learn the word ubiquitous, you don't translate it. You learn the definition, present everywhere, and you write sentences like, smartphones have become ubiquitous in modern life.
There's also that fascinating, almost mythical goal, influencing your dreams.
Dreaming in the target language is widely considered a definitive sign of deep internalization.
Why is that?
Because it shows that English has reached your subconscious processing levels. Now, you can't force it, but the sources suggest you can influence it by immersing heavily in English content reading, watching, listening, and speaking practice right before you go to sleep.
And to really solidify this mental shift, we have to use English for genuine cognitive work, not just for conversation practice.
Yes, you have to use English for problem solving. Think through complex decisions or everyday challenges in the target language.
Give me an example of that.
I need to decide if I should change jobs. Okay, let me weigh the pros, better pay, new challenges, versus the cons, longer commute, loss of seniority in English. This forces the use of English for genuine, non-language specific cognitive work. It cements its utility as a primary operational language for your brain.
This shift to thinking in English is challenging, but the modern learner has a massive advantage.
A huge one.
Technology. It acts as a tireless, non-judgmental practice partner that never runs out of time. So what does this mean for leveraging tech?
Technology is indispensable for the solo learner, particularly for that self-correction loop we keep talking about. Speech recognition software is a perfect example.
Like voice typing.
Voice typing, voice assistants, they act as immediate pronunciation checks. And critically, every misunderstanding, every time the computer dictates the wrong word, highlights a specific pronunciation issue that needs your urgent attention. If the computer can't understand you, a human probably struggles too.
And we don't even need live conversation to get that external feedback anymore, thanks to asynchronous tools.
Exactly. Language exchange apps like HelloTalk or Tandem let you record and send audio messages to native speakers.
So it's not real time.
No, and that removes the intense time pressure of a real-time conversation. But you still get guaranteed, valuable, concrete feedback on your fluency and accuracy later on. It's the definition of low-stakes interaction.
Video recording is probably the most brutal, but also the most honest assessment tool.
Invaluable for holistic self-assessment. Recording your monologues or your presentations reveals far more than just the quality of your sound.
What else does it show you?
It exposes all your unconscious speaking habits. Excessive use of filler words like speaking too fast or too slow, and even body language issues like fidgeting or having poor eye contact. Self-awareness of these visual and auditory habits is the first step toward true fluency.
What about leveraging common video tools that everyone has, like YouTube itself?
The features on YouTube are gold for shadowing. You can use the adjustable playback speed feature. You can slow down challenging material to 0.75x or 0.5x speed for a much more effective shadowing.
So it isolates the difficult moments.
It allows the learner to fully grasp the subtle connected speech patterns and the reductions that happen way too quickly in rapid native speech.
And then there are specialized apps that target the tiny mechanics we talked about earlier.
Yes, pronunciation analyzers. Apps like IELTS Speak use sophisticated AI to analyze your speech and give you extremely detailed feedback on individual mispronounced phonemes.
They do more than just say wrong.
Much more. They'll actually explain the required tongue, lip, and jaw positioning to make the sound correctly. This tangible, actionable feedback is what separates effective solo practice from just aimless repetition.
We can even turn passive consumption, like listening to a podcast, into active speaking practice.
By using podcast apps as active learning tools. As a listener, you should frequently pause the content and summarize what you just heard aloud.
Or argue with the host's points.
Or argue with the host. Or try to answer a rhetorical question before the host reveals the answer. This is active listening transformed, and it forces immediate, coherent verbal response under very low pressure.
And what about systems to ensure we retain the language we've just practiced?
Spaced repetition systems, or SRS, like Anki, are highly effective when you integrate speaking into them.
How does it work?
You can create cards that include an audio clip of a correct sentence pronunciation. The system requires you to try and reproduce that sentence aloud perfectly before it reveals the written answer. It merges vocabulary, structure retention, and active speaking practice all into one.
Finally, we should mention the cutting edge, the VR tools for those willing to invest.
VR language learning platforms, while they do require specialized equipment, create fully immersive, simulated environments.
Like what?
Like ordering coffee in a virtual Parisian cafe or giving a sales pitch in a virtual boardroom. They provide the most realistic, context-heavy, pressure-free practice scenarios you can get independently. They allow you to make mistakes in a safe, yet surprisingly realistic virtual world.
Okay, we've covered the mechanics, the technology, and the cognitive shift. Now for the psychological side, which is absolutely vital for long-term solo success. Let's address the long-standing debate, accent reduction versus accent acceptance.
It's a point of anxiety for so many learners, but the research really clarifies the primary objective, and it's this: intelligibility, not elimination.
So the goal isn't to sound like a native speaker.
Not necessarily. Your focus must be on eliminating those pronunciation issues, the unclear phonemes or the incorrect stress patterns that genuinely impede understanding and cause listeners to frequently ask you to repeat yourself.
And we really have to reinforce that having an accent does not equate to having poor English skills.
Absolutely not. Think of all the successful professionals we see every day. Actors, politicians, academics, many of whom maintain noticeable, distinct accents. The goal should be clear: international English.
Meaning?
Comprehensible pronunciation that avoids favoring a single native variety, like British RP or General American. An accent is often part of your linguistic heritage and your identity.
But if a learner specifically desires that near-native sound, where should their focus be placed for the greatest impact?
If that's the goal, then they must focus relentlessly on the suprasegmental features we discussed earlier.
The stress, the rhythm, the intonation.
Exactly. Those carry the melody and flow of natural speech, and they contribute far more to sounding natural than agonizing over the perfect articulation of every single individual sound.
And consistency is paramount if they choose to target a native sound.
Yes. If you're aiming for native-like speech, you have to choose a model accent. British, American, Australian, whatever, and then immerse specifically and consistently in that one variety. Trying to blend accents from different regions often leads to confusion and mixed signals for the listener.
So at the end of the day,
Acceptance, acknowledging your accent while working diligently on clarity fosters a much healthier, less paralyzing relationship with the long learning process.
Okay, so solo practice requires tremendous self-discipline. How do we structure motivation to avoid burning out or getting stuck in a rut?
Motivation requires concrete structure and measurable goals. The sources strongly suggest establishing daily goals measured in minutes, not tasks.
Why minutes?
Because it's a low barrier to entry. Commit to a manageable duration, say 20 minutes daily, that you can distribute throughout the day. It makes the goal feel achievable.
And we need that visual reinforcement to keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. Use habit tracking apps, digital calendars, or even just a simple physical wall calendar to maintain a visible streak of your completed practice days. Seeing that unbroken chain provides powerful positive reinforcement. It leverages our human nature to maintain consistency.
We should also apply structure to our larger goals through a well-known methodology.
Yes, that's where the SMART goals framework is so useful.
Remind us what that is.
SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So don't set a vague goal like speak better English.
Make it specific.
Make it specific and measurable. Record a 5-minute monologue on my professional expertise without using the word like by the 3rd Saturday of next month. That specificity provides direction and allows for tangible progress measurement.
And for those of us who need a bit of urgency in our lives,
create artificial deadlines. Set a date 2 weeks from now to share a recorded video or a monologue with a designated, even an imaginary audience. That deadline creates necessary urgency and accountability, and it mimics the external pressure of a real-world event.
let's detail the critical pitfalls that can stop solo learners dead in their tracks.
The first major mistake is passive listening. Just having English content playing in the background provides minimal benefit for speaking. Active engagement shadowing, summarizing, responding is what's necessary to turn that input into output.
And the second one is the trap of perfectionism.
The fear of mistakes paralyzes progress, which is the absolute antithesis of fluency training.
Right.
Fluency demands voluminous, imperfect practice. Hesitating to speak because you're afraid of errors prevents the very repetition you need to strengthen those neural pathways. You have to embrace your mistakes as necessary data points.
The third pitfall.
Inconsistent practice. Short, regular daily sessions are far, far more effective than occasional, intense marathon efforts every few weeks. You have to aim for daily consistency.
And we have to overcome the deep discomfort of self-assessment.
That's a critical error. Ignoring recording feedback, the discomfort of listening to your own voice, of noting your own flaws, it has to be overcome. That critical review provides the only objective, actionable feedback you have as a solo learner. It ensures you correct bad habits before they solidify.
And finally,
avoid practicing only easy material. You have to regularly engage in productive struggle with material that's slightly above your current level to drive genuine growth.
let's finish with some techniques for the serious advanced learners, and then discuss how to objectively assess all this solo progress.
For serious learners who are looking to push their linguistic agility to the limit, simultaneous interpretation is the ultimate challenge.
What does that involve?
It involves real-time translation from your native language to English while you're watching content. It is incredibly demanding. It forces high linguistic agility, quick processing, and instantaneous verbal output.
And for refining their rhetorical ability, they need to do some analysis.
Speech analysis is highly effective. You transcribe and analyze the presentations of skilled native speakers, politicians, CEOs, great TED speakers, to understand how they construct persuasive language.
So you're looking at their use of pause, emphasis, and structural rhetoric.
Exactly. Then the learner attempts to deliver that same speech, modeling those structural choices.
And for those building confidence for public settings, we need to treat practice like an actual performance.
Public speaking preparation. It means getting your practice off the chair. You stand up, you gesture, you walk, you project your voice while practicing. These physical performance elements make the practice more dynamic, they increase memory retention, and they prepare you for real-world situations where you might need to speak publicly and confidently.
Finally, the critical question. If I don't have a teacher, how can I objectively assess if I'm actually getting any better?
You start by creating a recording archive. Record standardized monologues, something like my goals for the year, or a summary of my hometown every single month.
And then you compare them.
You compare the oldest recording to the most recent one. You will hear concrete, objective improvement in your rhythm, your speed, your clarity, and complexity that you might otherwise miss day to day.
And using objective, quantifiable metrics can give us immediate feedback.
Yes, you can track quantifiable measures. The number of words you speak per minute during a standardized monologue, or the longest time you can speak continuously without pauses or filler words. These objective metrics reveal progress that can feel invisible when you're in the thick of daily practice.
And technology provides a metric for clarity.
The technology check. Track how often your speech recognition software successfully transcribes what you're saying. A significant reduction in transcription errors over 3 months is objective proof of vastly improved clarity and pronunciation. It confirms your efforts are having a tangible impact on your intelligibility.
And what's the most sophisticated sign of internalization?
The ability to accurately self-correct. Not just recognizing an error 5 seconds after you've said it, but the capacity to consistently identify your own errors in grammar, word choice, or pronunciation after the fact. This is a significant indicator that the monitoring and editing parts of your brain are now operating efficiently and effectively in your target language.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, and I think we've shown that independent English-speaking fluency is not some difficult dream. It's a detailed strategic plan that's accessible to anyone, anywhere.
We've walked through all the essential methodologies: shadowing for training mimicry and rhythm, self-talk and narration for boosting spontaneous output and vocabulary relevance, monologues for building that continuous fluency stamina, and of course, leveraging technology for tireless, objective feedback on mechanical errors and pronunciation.
The ultimate takeaway here is that the necessary tools for fluency are internal. They're based on your commitment and your strategic practice, not on expensive classes or mandatory, constant access to native speakers.
This is all about taking back control of your learning process and making progress happen on your own terms.
And here's the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. The true measure of language internalization is often considered to be that moment you find yourself dreaming in the target language.
We discussed how this is influenced by using English for genuine cognitive work thinking and solving problems in the target language throughout your day. And that is the single greatest predictor of achieving that profound mental shift.
So think about this. What is one small part of your daily life, your walk to work, your lunch preparation, or simply evaluating the weather that you can commit to narrating in English, starting right now?
The journey of fluency begins with that very next word.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope this comprehensive guide helps you unlock your independent path to fluency. We'll see you next time.